Hi everyone, this is James and I am here about to conduct the follow-up to this week's Oracle Outlook video reading, which I shot on Monday, August the 25th, 2025. It is Friday morning, August the 29th, 2025. And in the follow-up, we are picking up right where we left off. If you were here for the previous video, then you will remember that we worked with the Mitchell Tarot. And here is the box for the deck. This is the second tarot deck I made. And as I stated in the previous video, this was a collaboration between myself and AI. And I loved the end result so much that I am making the deck available to the public for those who find it of interest. So you'll see a link in the description box below that will take you to my Make Playing Cards Marketplace site, and you can learn more about the deck there. Okay, so this was the reading in the 9-card box. We had, starting with the first card, King of Water, 4 of Air, and let me come back to the King of Water. So if you work with a more traditional pack, and when I say that I mean a deck like the RWS, Rider-Waite-Smith, this would be the King of Cups. 4 of Air translates to the 4 of Swords. Queen of Air translates to the Queen of Swords. The Chariot. 8 of Fire would be the 8 of Wands. 7 of Water would be 7 of Cups. 9 of Water would be 9 of Cups. The World. And then the 5 of Earth would be the 5 of Pentacles. Okay, so if this is your first time here, welcome. I'm so happy that you landed on this video, and I hope that if you find it of interest, that you take some time to explore some other content on the channel. And if you're a returning viewer and subscriber, I'd like to say welcome back and thank you so much for continuing to come back and continuing to support the work that goes into the channel. Okay, so we've been working with a 9-card box and a line of 5 extraction using a number of systems. And so this is a shout out with love to one of my viewers, Ismail, who asked me for this layout and use of the system, right? So here we go. So the way it works is after you work through your 9-card box, you want to use the line of 5 or counting round extraction process as a way to sum up your reading, final advice, maybe glean a message that you didn't get from the previous layout. And as I say this, all the information that you got from your 9-card box is still in play, right? You still take it into consideration. But the way the process works is you start with your middle card, your focal card in the box. So we're going to remove the 8 of Fire. This is going to be the first card in our 5-card line. Then you count to 1, 2. 9 of Water in this case is going to be the second card. We count 2 again. 1, 2. 5 of Earth is going to be the third card. Then we count 2 again. 1, 2. 4 of Air is going to be the fourth card. And then final card is 1, 2, and the Chariot. And so once you extract your cards, you're going to take the remainder that were not selected, and you're going to move them to one side. Now you're going to take your cards that were selected and you're going to lay them out in the order that they were extracted. So the Chariot is the last card, 4 of Air, 5 of Earth, 9 of Water, and then 8 of Fire. And here we are with the line. Once again, we have 8 of Fire, 9 of Water, 5 of Earth, 4 of Air, and the Chariot. So the first thing that gets my attention is that we end the line with a major arcana card, the Chariot. So that, for me, is some importance. We give the major arcana cards a little more attention. They bear more weight in a reading for me. So I noted that immediately. Okay, so now the way you could read the line could be one of two ways. You could use what we call forward narration, which means you start with the card on the left and just simply read across till you get to the card on the far right. Now for me, what I like to do is once I do the extraction, I note that there is a new focal card, because in a line of 5, the middle card would be what we call the hinge card. It connects the cards on either side of the line. Okay, so 5 of Earth, I talked about it in a previous video. This is a card that can talk about being out in the cold. This is about potentially rejection, isolation, right? It could be a person who's on the outside looking in. So this card can be about, being the outsider or the outcast. I talked about in the previous video that this card can also be about financial worries or concerns, right? So again, context would be everything here. So financial worries and concerns. It can also be about in relationship to business, the idea about feast or famine, or that your business runs in cycles. And on a personal level, this card can be about, the sense of either needing to have basic needs met, or that somehow being devalued, right? So those are all the things that would be maybe the focal point or the central issue in this particular line. All right, and so then you notice that your first card in the line will always be the focal point or the focal card from the previous layout, the 9-card box. So this always starts off your line. So here we had 8 of Fire, and I talked about the idea that this card can represent busyness, things moving along. This is about travel, possibly, and it would suggest maybe air travel. It would talk about communication and rapid forms of communication. And in that previous video, I talked about text messaging being one of the more rapid forms of communication that we use in this day and age, right? So those are possibilities. But with the communication, it's about also communicating that either you care for and appreciate those around you, especially in relationship to the efforts that they make in relationship with you, or that you are on the receiving end of messages about being cared for, and appreciated, right? So again, context would be everything. So, but those were the points I touched on in the previous video. So that would be the thing opening it up here, right? It would be about communication, or if you're into enterprise and endeavors, this would be about launching something possibly in a business sense, or, having many irons in the fire, right? And then kind of putting those on either a timetable or some kind of schedule. That is a point I didn't mention in the last video, right? For me, when I do a line of 5 using a system like tarot or oracle cards, this would be in the position of the line, what I call the origin card. So this would be opening things up, or it would give us some idea of why we are asking the question that we're asking, right? So that's what I would see with 8 of Fire. Then here in the position, second card, this would be in the position of our expectations. This is 9 of Water. This is the wish card. So in a place of expectations, it would be we are expecting or having the expectation of being either emotionally satisfied or actually having a wish fulfilled, right? But as I said in the previous video, there's a rub here. In the card, I have an image of a genie with the lamp in front of it, or in front of him. And the idea here is that you have to rub the lamp in order to get the genie to appear to grant the wish, right? So this card sometimes says the rub is that you have to, have an active part in making your dreams come true, right? So whatever it is in terms of either travel or having irons in the fire, or you are focusing time and attention on business, right? The 8 is a number of the entrepreneur and can represent career and organizations, right? So if that's the case, whatever it is, it's about what are you willing to do? What is your part, or what action step are you willing to take to make your dreams come true? As I said in the previous video, it's not about having a magical figure suddenly appear who's going to grant the wishes or do the work, right? You still have to do some of the work, right? So I will say that. Now the other thing that I'm getting, and this is just hanging my hat on the symbol of the lamp. This can also be about illumination or enlightenment, right? Because the 9 is a number that represents wisdom gained from experience, right? And so the lamp could be achieving or getting some kind of enlightenment or clarity, right? And let's just say, I talked about magical beings, right? So let's just say for a moment that, you're putting your wish that you want to be fulfilled out into the universe, right? The universe is all about paying attention to the words that we hold in our heads, right? Our thoughts, or the words that we speak, right? So it could just be that you are gaining clarity around the words that you speak in order to manifest what you want in your life. And I'm going to use the idea of working with AI, especially since this is an AI deck in this particular case. One of the things that I learned while creating the cards is that if you're familiar with AI, you'll know that we have to use what's called a prompt, right? And so you have also too a negative prompt in that, meaning like you have to kind of be really clear on what you want in the image and what you don't want in the image, right? And so what I learned about this process is that it made me remember the spiritual idea that our words have power, right? And so if I created an image I didn't like, I would look at it and go, what different words can I use that will produce the result that I have in my head or that I am looking for? This is clearly the case with the 9 of water, right? What are the thoughts that you're holding? What are the words that you are speaking in that regard, especially when it comes to wanting to either be or achieve more emotional satisfaction in your life or have your wishes, whatever they are, be fulfilled, right? This is a great example of the process that I just explained in my collaboration with AI, right? So it could just be a matter of you gain more clarity around the thoughts that you're holding in your head and the words that you are speaking out of your mouth, especially when you link them to what's manifesting in your life. Yeah? Okay. So that's what I want to say with the 9 of water. 5 of earth. I touched on the idea about people maybe making different changes, right? The 5 is a number of changes. Changes in their material world or circumstances. One of them could be is that you are making a change regarding your spiritual life, right? I talked about in the previous video about maybe making a change with your spiritual path or religious path or some sort of spiritual tradition or religious tradition, right? Something that maybe you had value for in the past, but it no longer has value for you now, or that you are leaving a community, either a spiritual community or religious community, because of who you are becoming, right? And they, the community that is, don't have the value for you that you would like for them to have. And so you have made the decision to move on, right? And I'm noting here that the directional cue, that the figure is facing this way, right? The genie, right? So maybe going to a place where you feel a greater sense of satisfaction, or embarking on a path, I should say, in which you feel a greater sense of satisfaction and fulfillment. Right now, one of the things I will say, and I did say this in the previous video, and I see it here, is that maybe somebody is making the change from maybe something more traditional or mainstream in terms of spiritual paths or traditions, something more mainstream, right? Maybe to something a little more esoteric, right? The genie could be a pun for the jinn, as I talked about in the previous video, but it could just be talking about a more magical path, right? These two cards are making me think, for some people, maybe the possibility of ceremonial magic. Yeah? Right? Because the 5 of earth would imply it would still have the ritual and structure that you might find in more traditional forms of spirituality, but it has a magical component. Right? And especially when we're talking about, the art of manifesting. Okay, and then the other side, we have something else on the spiritual nature, right? So here we have meditation, again, maybe found in more alternative forms of spirituality, right? Not necessarily the mainstream, right? But now, what I'm seeing here, if this is about rejection, being out in the cold, not having your needs met, then this is about healing and recuperating and recovery from that, right? Order of the cards. This is coming first and then this. And maybe that would also bring this card back in terms of what we are expecting, or the expectation is for the healing and the recovery and the recuperation process to take hold. So now it could also be too, if I bring this card back in terms of busyness, right? Then this card is about taking a break. Right? Closing the door on something so that you can take a break. And the Four of Air, as I said in a previous video, is about a temporary break, right? It's a temporary pause. Now I'm also going to throw this out here. With the Five of Earth being the card of the physical, this can be about minor colds and illnesses, right? The person being out in the cold. And then this would make sense in that regard with the Four of Air, talking about healing and recuperation and recovery, right? And then the other thing in terms of recovery, I talked about it earlier, is that this card can be about feast or famine, especially if you are an entrepreneur in business, right? Then this card would be about healing and recovering from that cycle of lack, that cycle of ebb, right? And it could be that that break gives you a greater sense of clarity around, maybe if you're in business, if you're providing a service or a product, about the needs of the people. Is it really meeting the need of your market, your demographic, your audience, that kind of thing? And kind of metaphorically stepping back gives you the clarity that you would need to change this situation, to turn it around. And then at the end, this would be the outcome. Oh, so I didn't say. So the way I read this, I talked about this being the origin, this being the expectation. This card would be the central issue or focus or the heart of the matter. Then this card would be guidance or advice, right? And then the last card would be the probable or most likely outcome. And like I said, here we have the Chariot. So it's a major arcana card. And it talks about life direction. That's the general theme of the Chariot. So it can talk about life direction. It can talk about progress, advancement, moving forward, right? And if you notice, we have two travel cards. This is considered a travel card. So you have two travel cards bookending the reading, right? We have eight of fire, on this side, and then the Chariot here. So there's something about movement, progression, advancement, literal travel. But it could also be that, we are taking a pause, going within, and seeing where we want to go in our life direction. Do we have a goal? Are we moving towards our goals? That kind of thing. And then here, if I mirror Five of Earth and the Chariot, perhaps a final message as I wrap this up would be you reclaiming the driver's seat. I talked about it in the previous video, right? That the Chariot can be encouraging you to sit in the driver's seat of your own life experience, right? Especially if it comes on the heels of some sort of rejection, right? A sense of being devalued, being cast out, or being on the outside looking in. That may be happening to get you to metaphorically get back into the driver's seat of your own life experience. And that would be shifting the control of your life, right? From having it in the hands of other people to putting it in your own hands. And then if that's the case, then the chariot is asking the question for you to consider, where do you go from here? Right? But the chariot, remember, is also about not just the destination, but the journey. And so with that, I'm going to wrap up this follow-up video to the Oracle Outlook. If you hung out with me and made it to this point in the video, I want to thank you for giving me the gift of your time. And if you are Ismael, hi Ismael first and foremost, I hope that you found this line of 5 extraction process helpful. So with that, James and Mitchell is signing out. I will see you in our next video together, and until then, take care.